So unwanted or unneeded tension is one of the biggest performance killers for guitarists. And the thing about it is one of those things that can affect guitarists of all abilities, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an advanced player. It can creep into your playing without you noticing it. So what I want to do in this video is to talk about what it is, how it can occur, and more importantly, what you can do about it. And I'll look at it from the physical side of it and also from the mental side of it as well. Now, I really started thinking about this when I first developed something called Musicians Focal Dystonia. And what that is it's like an unwanted reflex that just fires, that just causes a muscle to just tighten up. And then, of course, when you first develop this, what you start to do is you start to fight against it, and things can start to stack on top of each other. So what was really sort of a basic reflex can start to turn into something really quite ugly. Now, the thing I realized when I started observing this is that this affects healthy players as well. And typically what would happen with a healthy player is that they'd have some kind of tension in their body, but then they'd start to fight the tension that's appeared in their body, and now things are again starting to stack on top of each other. And this is the thing that can really kill your performance as a guitarist as well. So what causes it? Well, physically, I see sort of two classes of tension that creep into people's playing. But there's also a mental component as well, and that mental component can underlie the physical components. I also see the mental side is probably the thing that caused my dystonia in my playing, which is why I want to talk about it. But let's start with the physical aspects first. Okay, so the first kind of tension to be aware of is the tension in the movement itself. And this typically affects new guitarists, and a great example of this is a guitarist learning to play a bar chord for the first time. You see them just squeezing the life out of the neck, trying to press all 6 strings down. And of course, you really don't need to do that. It's all about directed pressure in the areas of the neck that you need to fret the strings. That's what you need to be thinking about. But you also see it with players, typically if you're playing with aggression, with anger, and again, you can start really pressing down the strings using that anger, which it really doesn't serve you at all. So that's the thing to be aware of as well. And just learn to let go of that. You may want to keep that aggressive outlook, but you almost sometimes have to dissociate, the aggression in your body from the aggression in your hands. That's the thing. And if you look at really good players who play like this, have a look at their hands when they're playing. Really study what's going on in the hands. A great example of this actually is Angus Young. If you look at how he throws himself around the stage when he's playing, but really focus on his hands, and you'll see that even though it looks like he's flying around the stage, he's actually having a really light touch on the neck of the guitar and on his picking hand as well. And that's the thing to model. So look for that kind of thing and see if you can bring that into your playing, if that's the kind of a guitarist you are. So the other type of physical tension you get is tension that's unrelated to the movement that you're making. And typically you get this when you're right at the limits of your ability and you're trying to push those limits. That's when it really happens. Or when you're learning something new for you, you're really focusing on something new. And if you think about how this works, what happens is you kind of, prepare yourself to play this really difficult passage, and you get tension across your shoulder blades. You tighten, maybe you tighten your jaw, you squeeze your teeth together, you hold your breath, and you really go for the movement, yeah? That kind of thing, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. So it's tension away from the guitar itself, but it's like you preparing for this huge onslaught against the guitar. Now, think about what happens when you do that in the practice room. See, what your body does when you learn any skill, you get a training effect, and the training effect can be irrespective of where you're putting your focus. So your focus may be on your hand, but the training effect affects the whole of your body. So that tension that you put in your shoulders, you clamping your jaw shut, all of that gets a training effect alongside the movement that you're making as well, or this weird movement of your finger that is unrelated to the notes you're playing. Everything gets a training effect. And as your focus tends to be on the thing that you're learning, you tend to miss all of this unwanted, unhelpful tension happening in the rest of your body. But it turns into a bad habit, and that's where it comes from. And that's the kind of thing that can affect advanced players as much as beginner players, because it always seems to happen when you're playing right at the edge of your ability. Now, what you can do about this is that you can take your focus away from the thing that you're focusing on, from the new technique that you're learning, and do a body scan. That's probably the most useful thing that you can do. And just learn to spot that tension and learn to let it go. And then try doing the movement again. And focus on your body, let it go, and do the movement again. And just iterate this as well as working on the technique that you're working on as well. The other thing you can do is ask someone to comment on your playing, actually, because often this kind of tension, this kind of unwanted tension is unconscious. You don't necessarily notice it in yourself, but someone watching you playing may be able to point it out to you. And the thing is to ask yourself when they do, is it serving you or not? Because if it's not serving you, then it's something that you need to let go of. And so, and the way to do that is to bring it into your conscious awareness so you know what it is and what you need to do about it. If you do find you've got a bad habit, the thing to do is not to fight it. Don't try and force it as well, because these things stack. Also, your mindset affects how you're playing as well. So don't play when you're angry or frustrated about it. What you have to do, what you need to do, is to let go of it. Just let go of that mindset and let go of that tension as well. The thing to remember is everything gets a training effect. It reminds me of someone I was working with a while ago who when they played a G chord, their index finger stuck out like that. And then what they did was they started to fight it in order to try and get better technique. They fought it and curled their finger in. So now they've got a muscle group on the back of the forearm straightening the finger, and they've got a muscle group on the front of the forearm trying to curl it in as well. And this is just tension stacked on top of tension. But what they needed to do, and what I was getting them to do, was to just relax into the movement again. Put the G chord on. If your index finger sticks out like that, just let it naturally relax. Give it the time it needs. It may take 5 or 10 seconds. It doesn't matter. Just let it happen until it curls into a relaxed position. And then let go. And then put the G chord on. And then let go. And just gently put it on and let go. All the time working in this sort of relaxed mindset. And then you can go from a D shape to a G shape, C shape to a G shape. Just try these things and take it as slow as you need until you establish the habit of being able to put that G chord on with this relaxed finger. The other thing is to focus on what you want. And by this I mean, in the case of this guitarist with the finger that was sticking out, what you don't want to do is focus on the bad habit. You focus on what you want, and what he wants is a relaxed hand. So that's the thing to think about. You don't think about not having a straightened index finger. Do you see the difference there? That makes a huge difference. If you're also having problems understanding what to focus on, another great thing to do is to model guitarists that you admire. Think about what they're doing. Look at their movement. Look at the freedom in their movement and think about their mindset. that kind of relaxed state of flow that they're able to establish, and use that as your focus, use that as your goal when you're starting to work through these kinds of situations. Finally, it's worth talking about mindset. Think about the effects of playing through anger, playing through frustration, the kinds of pressure that you can put yourself under sometimes with that kind of internal self-cut talk, that sense of failure that some people have as well. And think about what that can do to your playing. There's a lot of evidence that suggests this kind of mindset is one of the contributory factors to the onset of focal dystonia. And in fact, some people say that this is the sole cause of it. If I look back at myself just prior to the onset of it, and I think about the mindset that I was in at that time, away from the guitar, I was going through some big changes in my life back then, which was putting me under an awful lot of pressure and an awful lot of stress and anxiety. And on top of that, I was trying to improve my guitar playing as well. So I was putting myself under pressure in order to improve on the guitar. And this normally being a musician is an escape from this kind of situation. But in this particular instance, I was just stacking pressure on top of pressure. And I think that was the cause that caused me to develop focal dystonia. And it's no surprise to me now when I look around sports people who play high pressure sports, that there are equivalent conditions that these guys develop as well. So, for example, golfers develop something called the yips, which affects how they swing the golf club. I know darts players develop something which they've christened dartitis, which is all about not being able to let go of the dart when they throw it. It affects cricket bowlers as well, or baseball pitchers. They can develop equivalent conditions as well, which affect their throwing arm. But all of these people put themselves under immense pressure. They're all doing a highly skilled movement, and that highly skilled movement breaks down because of that toxic mix of pressure on top of that highly skilled movement. And that's the kind of thing that affected me as well. And when I think about the rehab really is all about learning to let go. It's all about not fighting it. It's all about finding that better mental space. And over time, I feel like I'm making improvements. It's an ongoing process, but I feel like one day I will come out of the other side of it. And if there was one piece of advice that I would give you as well, it's about understanding the role of pressure in your playing and learning to let go of it, learning to play from a better mental space, and playing while you're having fun. Having fun with it is really important.